From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Evening Update.
Dennis's Heating and Air Conditioning is Northern California's premier heating and air conditioning contractor. From residential housing, large commercial projects, installation to repair, sheet metal fabrication, and everything in between, we are your go-to heating and air conditioning specialist.
So we got one more dry and mild day in store for us before everything I've been talking about, even since last week, is going to take shape. We talked about the potential for some rainfall, and not to mention those cooler temperatures making their way in the forecast, and that'll be here by Friday. Now, the thing is, we're also going to be looking at snow levels eventually dropping down to as low as 3,000 feet, but I think on average probably closer to about 3,500 feet. And then, of course, starting to kind of climb as we go into early next week. Now, speaking of early, and even in the middle of next week, this unsettled weather pattern will most likely last through that time frame. So this is going to be a prolonged period of wet weather. It's not going to be wet weather all day long, every single day. You'll be looking at off and on showers, but it's going to be a wet weather pattern nonetheless. But again, not the case for your Thursday. One more nice day in store for us. I think there'll be a few more clouds out there. Fairly dry. Looks like mainly sunny skies for the valley and eastward, but I think many of the mountain locations will see some of the clouds, and not to mention along the coast. But again, still dry. But if you look up here, there is the first sign of wet weather arriving. Okay, so we're going to take you into early Friday morning. This is when that cold front passes through the north coast. This is when we start to see periods of moderate to heavy rainfall. The winds will probably pick up. Probably get a little gusty at times, but look at the snow levels, fairly high, between 5,000 and 6,000 feet. So this initially we'll be looking at some warm air associated with this. Then as it pushes eastward through the morning, by the mid-morning hours, we start to see the showers in the valley. Could turn into some moderate rain as early as 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. It pushes eastward even more. So by noon, now it's mainly east of the valley, but places like Chico and Oroville still seeing some of those showers, but drying out, or at least a break from that wetter or heavier rainfall as we take you into the rest of the valley. But then behind it, you've got scattered showers. But again, here's that main line pushing eastward. So by the late afternoon, early evening, now it's mainly over the eastern mountains. El Turris, Susanville, Portola, all seeing that heavier rainfall. And by the way, there is a potential for some thunderstorms embedded within that line of rain as we go through the day on Friday. But again, snow levels still fairly high, between 5,000 and 6,000 feet. Now, as we go into Friday night, it really starts to kind of taper off. But now we're beginning to get more into that cool and unsettled weather pattern. So the cooler air is going to start to move in. I've still got snow levels between 5,000 and 6,000 feet Friday night. But as we go into Friday night and into Saturday, this is when that cooler air really starts to settle in, and those snow levels will start to drop. Now, how much rain can we expect initially with this first push of rain? Well, not bad. Probably about 1/2 of an inch, give or take, I think, for the valley, and maybe a little bit more than that as we take you off along the coast. And again, that same typical footprint, we just don't see as much of that measurable water, let's put it that way, off to the north and to the east. All right, so here's what we have in store for us tonight. These temperatures dropping down to the mid to upper 40s for the valley and in the 30s for most of us in the higher elevations. And you can see along the coast in the mid 40s. So we look at our neighborhood by neighborhood forecast. We start off with Trinity County. You've got those temperatures are going to be in the 60s. So again, temperatures starting to drop, not quite the 70s, right? But now we're back into the 60s, and look at that. Off and on chances for rain all the way through at least the middle of next week. Your North Coast neighborhood forecast, at least for the south, 63 degrees for Rio Dell, 65 for Alder Point, as well as Blue Lake, and 62 degrees in Eureka. We take you up north, 61 for Smith River, 63 for Gas Key, 62 degrees for Trinidad, and 67 degrees for Orleans. Let's take you out to Siskiyou County, where we got temperatures there in the low to mid 60s. You head off to eastern Siskiyou County, a bit cooler in the mid to upper 50s. Here's your Modoc County neighborhood forecast, and we've got those temperatures mainly upper 50s to low 60s for your daytime highs. And your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, temperatures mainly in the upper 50s to low 60s as well. Some of the warmer spots like Paradise about 64, Shingletown 62, a bit cooler as you head higher in elevation in Viola with a high of about 55 degrees. Your Valley neighborhood forecast still in the 70s. We'll take it, right? Still in the low 70s, 70 degrees for Corning, 72 degrees for Chico, and 70 in Biggs. We take you up north, about 70 for Reading, 70 for Anderson, as well as Red Bluff, 66 for Lakehead, and looks like Whiskeytown, about 64 degrees. All right, so here's a look at your 7-day outlook. And you can see, of course, the dry conditions for your Thursday, still around 70. We see about a 10-degree drop on Friday with that heaviest rainfall. And then you can just see this unsettled weather pattern all the way through the middle of next week. Temperatures on average, once we do get into Friday, will be in the upper 50s to low 60s. All right, that's a look at your forecast. If you want to stick around for a more detailed forecast, a more detailed deep dive, stick around. But before we get into that, I want to remind you, for those of you that are new to the channel, I want to remind you that I do have a free Weather NorCal app. What you're watching now, you can watch from your phone. You can also check out your neighborhood forecast. You can watch Coffee with Kruger live every weekday morning at 6:30 in the morning. So a lot of great opportunities for the free Weather NorCal app. And on top of that, you can share your pictures. So be sure to check that out. All right, so here's the overall setup that we've got. We look over the Pacific Ocean. Very active. Storms all over the place, right? You got a swirling area of low pressure here, another one here. We've got another area of low pressure here. And then, of course, way off even into the Western Pacific. All of this energy, as you can see, is just kind of moving in our direction. So you can see this a little bit of a ridge of high pressure, but overall you can just see a lot of these storm systems that are over the Pacific, and they're heading our way, and they're eventually going to have an impact on our weather. So let's take a look at that long range, and you can see here again what we've got here. And one of the reasons why we're finally starting to kind of open the door for this wet weather is because the ridge of high pressure that we've been dealing with, we see this ridge right here. This is actually a fairly weak ridge right now, but it was much stronger even just a few days ago, even 24 hours ago. But it's breaking down, it's moving out, and that's opening the door for these storm systems to move in. So the first one is right here. That's just going to be moving on in by the time we get into Friday. And of course, we saw the timing of that rain coming in on Friday. There's the colder air associated with it. That's going to kind of filter in behind it, and then we see those snow levels begin to drop down to approximately 3,500 feet on Saturday. Now you'll see a bit of a lull, right? You see a bit of a break, but then this next storm system will be moving on in. There's Sunday. Sunday, not a lot of activity here. And then we have more coming in as we go into Monday. Tuesday of next week. Wednesday of next week. Looks like a more impressive system coming in by Wednesday of next week. And then we might see a bit of a break next Thursday. And then maybe by the end of next week, another round of rain. So you get the idea. We've got this, what I like to call a parade of storms over the Pacific. And they're all going to change shape and morph before they get here. But bottom line is that energy is heading our way, and that's what's going to allow us to see more wet weather here as we go through the weekend and really through a good portion of next week. Now, is this a guaranteed forecast, what you just saw? Of course not. I mean, we're looking way out. But I just wanted to really illustrate the fact that we've got quite a wet weather pattern setting itself up here for an extended period of time. Now we look at the rainfall outlook, and this is only going through next Tuesday. This is not including what we'll see Wednesday, and of course toward the end of next week going into that next Friday. But you can see where most of the rain is going to be. That orange, by the way, is upwards of about 5 inches of rain. You know, that might be overdoing it. But really what I want to really illustrate here is the typical spots. The coast, northern Shasta County, and the Sierra seeing the bulk of that rain. We see a decent amount of rainfall, looks like, in the valley, where we could see upwards of 1 inch to 2 inches of rain once all is said and done, once again, through Tuesday of next week. All right, let's take a look at your wave heights, and there you can see they're upwards of around 7 feet. Now notice what's happening as we go into your Thursday. You see how they're starting to rise. Then we go into Friday. They're rising even more because Friday's storm system is going to kind of churn things up and cause us to see those higher wave heights. Let's take a look at the marine forecast for your Thursday. South winds at 5 to 15 knots, waves from the south at 5 feet at 5 seconds, and from the west at 3 feet at about 13 seconds. And there is your high and low tide, along with your sunrise and your sunset. All right, here's what we have in store for us tomorrow. Just kind of the overall footprint. We saw your neighborhood forecast. Now just kind of a general view here. Temperatures, low 70s in the valley, low to mid 60s, really low 60s here for the higher elevations. And there you can see about 70 for Trinity County, 70 for the inland areas, mid 60s for Trinity County, upper 50s to low 60s here for the coast. All right, let's take a look at your 7-day forecast for the 6 different neighborhoods. And of course, we'll start with the valley. And there, of course, you can see here that we are looking at that rain arriving on Friday. Heaviest will be on Friday. And by the way, We could see some isolated thunderstorms Friday and Saturday, off and on rain, all the way through the middle of next week. Here's a look at your coast and inland, and not to mention Trinity County. There, of course, you got the rain coming in heaviest on Friday. Snow levels eventually down to about 3,500 feet for Saturday, Sunday. Maybe as low as 3,000 feet in some cases. And then it's starting to climb a little bit here, back up to about 4,000 feet and higher by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We take a look at your 7-day outlook for Siskiyou County, Modoc County, and the Eastern Mountains. There's that rain and snow coming in fairly high. I've got it around 6,000 feet. Then we get about 3,500 feet by the time we get into Saturday and Sunday, and then 4,000 feet to 4,500 feet by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week.